Hello, and thank you all for coming. I'm Allison Sant of the Studio for Urban Projects. We chose this spot here because it's where the canal meets the bay, which is a great place to talk about flooding in San Rafael. So our tour today is part of the Bay Area Resilient by Design Challenge. It's a year-long collaborative process to develop 10 community-based solutions that really look at how to strengthen this region's resilience to sea level rise, severe storms, flooding, and earthquakes. So over the last several months, we've planned a series of tours which are really aimed at bringing the public into conversation with the people that are working to change this region. The scientists, designers, the planners, government officials, businesses, and advocacy groups that are really working to make this region resilient. So we're calling these the Living with Water Tours, and they aim to bring a broader awareness to the effects of climate change on the region, mitigation and adaptation strategies underway, and ways in which community members can really contribute to the process of making San Rafael resilient to the changes ahead.
This is the challenge here that we face, is that much of our community, a lot of our industry, much of our infrastructure, critical infrastructure, is at risk of flooding today. Much of the area would be below the water level at high tide. In all, there are roughly about 16 to 18,000 people that could be flooded in a 100-year flood.
I don't believe in accidental things. I believe we have equity issues, and I do appreciate this type of projects because it really raised the concern as you described today. We were having these problems for a long time, and the city knows about it. And I think it's important that more residents get to know these issues so they can actually help us start changing things.
Tidal marshes provide physical and biological benefit to protecting human-developed shorelines. And the marsh that we have here today is about half of what was here 30 years ago. And so the idea is that the wetlands have the ability to reduce waves, so when there's storms and high tides and the wind is blowing and waves go across open water, they reach the wetlands and the wetlands dampen those waves down. And so the levees that we're standing on, for example, don't need to be as tall to keep that water from rushing in and flooding an area. And this can be applied anywhere in the world.
And so for the past 26 years, I've been working with a team and a whole collaboration of partners to do creek and wetlands restoration with K-12 students and teachers. You know, how to prepare for more climate change coming, how are we going to adapt? So bringing in the community is really critical.
What we are doing with the flood mobile is raising awareness around San Rafael about flooding and also what is causing flooding.
So we need to be focusing now when we got some time before the sea level rise really starts happening in the middle of the century, when we really start being smart about where and how we're going to invest.
So see this one large area directly out from me? Looks like a whole bunch of mounds. That's oyster shell reef. That's Pacific oyster shells. Bag those up, put them in piles, and make them a substrate for native oysters to settle on. With a structure like this, we can reduce wave energy by about 30%. So also out here at this site is Eelgrass Plantings, and we have found in this project that if we plant it on the shore side of the oyster reefs, it grows a lot better. So there's things like that we're learning with these kinds of projects.
So you see the reef ball sticking up over there? It's kind of like a wiffle ball. It's like a concrete structure that's hollow in the middle, and it's a great place for encrusting organisms like native oysters to attach on the inside and the outside, and it's a great place for little fish and crabs.
This is a prototype. It's a pilot scale project.
We live on the canal, and there's between the docks and the houses are sort of this empty space. It's not being used. So in my mind was just like, God, it would be cool if we could just line the back of the dock somehow with these floating islands and plant them and have, sort of a wetland shoreline the whole way in front of our riprap down there and protect our houses and make habitat and maybe affect water quality.
How can we integrate more communities? Think about bicycle paths, especially when this is the community that use more the bicycles to go to work. So imagine if you're a parent and you're going to send your kid to San Rafael High School and take the bicycle. I will send my kid, So is that an accidental thing? I don't believe in that.
Call out the need for improvements and things that, not only get you to the local grocery store safely, but also connect you to the regional bike network.
If you could cross over right here, you'd be taking somewhere between roughly a half to a mile out of the walking distance for a young woman or a young man is trying to get to high school from the Canal District.
Ring the bay with roads, with rail, and now with things like the Bay Trail as well.
There's a new demographic of cyclists, and they don't consider themselves cyclists necessarily. They're people who use bicycles to get around. So these are people who want to be outside, don't necessarily want to take the train because cycling is part of their exercise and their lifestyle and just their outside time in a world where a lot of us spend a lot of time inside. And those people are developing a political voice. There is lots to do. The whole activism here side of things is really important and really just taking shape.
We have a chance now to not only manage flooding, but improve affordable housing, mobility, public spaces, and ecology at the same time. So we urge you all to stay involved in this process. Together, we can work to help make this region a model for how we meet the challenges of our changing climate.